Well, hey everybody, John Rithlin here, and this is every SummerSlam opening match ranked from worst to best. Companion piece to my video about every SummerSlam main event ranked from worst to best. Link up here, or otherwise, just check out the channel timeline if I forget to add until after I get home from work tonight. Yes, it is important to close a pay-per-view like SummerSlam or any pay-per-view with something to hook the audience. A heel winning and the fans want to see what happens next, or their hero finally wins a title and they want to see what happens. Like, it's just important to hook the audience. But that being said, when people used to spend a lot of money on these pay-per-views, you wanted to open the pay-per-view hot and get the fans feeling like they invested their money wisely. And sometimes WWE did that. Sometimes they didn't. But with 31 editions, there's always going to be some, a mixed bag and some bullshit and some really, really good shit. The main event list was actually easier to do than this one, but let's start off with number 31. We go to 2005. It's Chris Benoit versus Orlando Jordan for the U.S. title. This lasted 25 seconds, but it wasn't the most decisive tap-out finish that Benoit had in his career. I'm a fucking evil human being. God damn it. I'm an evil human being, but hey, Orlando, you were able to walk out under your own power at least. And at least the Bowflex machine wasn't involved. What the fuck is wrong with me? Well, the whole point, 25 seconds. If anybody is still watching after that, 25 seconds, literally that's what happened. And then it became a running gag. Gee, I wonder why Orlando Jordan left WWE soon after, or why they released him. Because they beat him to fucking powder. I'm not saying Orlando Jordan would have ever been anything good, or at least anything. I mean, he was decent. He wasn't great in the ring, but good God, they gave him the U.S. title for what, like almost 6 months? Like 5-6 months? And that's how they treat him? Benoit treating him like he did Nancy and Daniel? God damn it, I'm fucking evil. I would apologize, but you know what? I have dark humor. But anyway, moving on. We go to number 30. It's 2003. We have La Resistance versus Dudley Boys for the tag titles. It didn't fire. It just didn't. I mean, La Resistance wasn't a bad tag team. Dudley Boys were really booked badly. Like after 2002, they were booked really badly. When they had their return at Survivor Series 2002, you thought, okay, some good stuff's going to happen. No, it really wasn't all that good. Like by like the end of 2004, they were taken off TV, and then they were brought back for a little bit for the ECW One Night Stand pay-per-view, and that was it. But this just didn't work. It just didn't ultimately. Number 29, 2000, we go right to Censor versus Too Cool. It was about 5 minutes, and Stevie Richards won with a super kick. That's about it. It was not very good. I mean, I like Stevie Richards, don't get me wrong. I think Right to Censor is a pretty underappreciated faction, but it just didn't work ultimately. It really didn't. There were a lot of short matches here, so this list might actually end up being shorter until I get to the good stuff a little bit later on. But then we go to number 28. It's 2008, MVP versus Jeff Hardy. I wanted to like this match more. It was well worked, but I just didn't. I like the fact that, they kind of made Jeff's issues part of the storyline, but to me, what ultimately bothered me was that Jeff didn't really get help for them at that time. He did eventually, and that's fine. That is what it is. But this feud didn't really work for me. It was kind of a holdover for MVP and Matt Hardy and everything and stuff like that, but it's just, then again, that feud had kind of already been blown off as it is, but I ultimately didn't like it. I didn't think they really worked all that well together, which is a shame because I like MVP. I think Jeff Hardy also can be very, very good when his head's screwed on straight. It's a shame, but I didn't like it. We go to 2010. It's Ziggler versus Kofi for the IC title. This is the entrant number 27. And it ended in no contest because the Nexus ran down and attacked, and this is when the Nexus were going to be in the main event and beat Team WWE, except they fucking didn't because fucking John Cena had to go Super Cena. Ha, ha, ha. Whoop-a-doo. Yeah, I hated that. Once again, link up here, by the way, if you want to check out what I ultimately thought of that, even though I gave my brief thoughts. Kofi and Ziggler could always have good matches, and the match was good for what it was, but ain't in a no contest. Yeah, it served a purpose for the Nexus until they lost to Super Cena. Ha, ha, ha. Whew. Number 26, 2013's edition, Bray versus Cain, Ring of Fire. It wasn't as bad as Adam Lambert's Ring of Fire. He should be cast into a volcano for what he did to that frickin' song. And I have nothing against Adam Lambert as a person. That was a fucking awful song. But, Ring of Fire remakes aside, it should have been an Inferno match. It was just a Ring of Fire where fire was surrounded, but you could win by pinfall. And it just, granted, PG, whatever. Just don't do this match if you're not going to promise somebody's going to be set on fire. It ultimately also is kind of a dick move to the fans, because fire is kind of hot. That's kind of the whole point of it. So the fans are probably getting like freaking torched. They probably had to get like, hand out free bottles of water and everything so everybody could cool themselves down. Yeah, I didn't like this one very much. It really didn't start Bray off all that great. I mean, he beat Cain. That's cool. And he went on a win streak. And then he lost to Cena at WrestleMania 30. And now I'm going to get mad about that all over again. But no, I won't, because I'm going to move on to number 25. The 2014 SummerSlam. It's Ziggler versus Miz for the IC title. It was like 7 minutes. Ziggler beat Miz. They were doing some weird stuff with Ziggler at this point, and Miz was a heel, and they tossed the title around a whole bunch, and it really didn't ultimately work. It was kind of a mess. And it was like a 7.5 minute match. Not all matches need to be 20-minute classics or 30-minute classics, but when it's just so quick, boom, 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 sometimes you don't give the storyline a chance to breathe, and these two always work well together, and I just felt they could have done more. But they weren't allowed to. Then we go to number 24, Jeff Jarrett versus D'Lo Brown from the SummerSlam 1999 edition. Yay, 1999, we're back there. But it was for the Intercontinental and European Championships, because D'Lo possessed both. And then Jarrett won them. And then handed the European title to Mark Henry. No, that was the thing that actually happened. And then Then Jeff Jarrett defended the title, and they had him in a feud with China because, chauvinism and good housekeeping. That was a great idea. It was a great idea. It did play into Jeff Jarrett being a chauvinist, and hey, at least Jeff Jarrett cracked Moolah over the head with the goddamn guitar. So that was good. Or maybe it was Mae Young. I don't care. He cracked both of them over the head with it, so that's at least what matters. But this match was pretty much a mess. But then again, 1999, it was a mess. Then we go to number 23. We go back to 1994. Bam Bam Bigelow and IRS versus the Head Shrinkers. And the fine opening tag. It was like 8 minutes. Head Shrinkers, I think, deserved a little bit better than this. Bam Bam, by this point, and I feel bad for saying this, Bam Bam still has some, life left in him, like as far as his career. And I mean, I'm not mocking the fact that he passed away. It's terrible how he passed away. But then you have IRS. It was like Bam Bam being part of the $1 Million Corporation. That didn't last past Mania 11. He was a babyface and then whatever. But yeah, the Head Shrinkers deserve better. Still, it was a fine tag match. It wasn't great, but it was fine. And then we go to number 22. We go back 1 year. Razor Ramon versus Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase's last pay-per-view appearance for WWE, at least as an active competitor. He would finish, I think, in All Japan after this. I think he would have a run in All Japan. I don't know if he left the company or if he just was allowed to work All Japan dates, because he put over Razor here, and then that was his last appearance. He would appear as a commentator a little bit later at the 94 Rumble. The famous line, "Wait a minute, McMahon, who won this thing?" But it was fine, and it was nice to see Razor get a victory, and Ted did the honors. That was pretty good stuff. Then we go to 1990. We go Power and Glory versus the Rockers. Well, Roma and Hercules just weren't a team that really worked, and that's a shame, because Roma actually was a pretty good tag team worker, and Hercules was a good worker. It just ultimately didn't really fire. It didn't really do a lot of good. Yeah, it was pretty. I don't know. It ultimately just didn't work for me, and it probably should have. But, it's like, because the Rockers usually work pretty well with our teams. But this was better than I expected, but it still wasn't all that good. And then we go number 20. It's 1998. We go D'Lo Brown versus Val Venus for the European title. It ended in DQ, because this is when they were banning D'Lo using the chest protector thing to do the frog splash like he did. And then because Val Venus was a babyface, he put on the chest protector. The ref's trying to get the chest protector off of him, and Val shoves the ref. Ends up getting a DQ ultimately. The DQ finish was pretty cheesy, but it was what it was. It was a 15-minute match, which it's a shame it ended after a DQ. Sometimes that actually works pretty well. In this case, it kind of didn't, but it was what it was. We're just zooming right along here through this list, because some of these opening matches there isn't as much to talk about as there is, like, with the main events, because some of those opening matches were just kind of thrown together with some quick storylines. Number 19, 1996's edition, Owen Hart versus Savio Vega. Very good match, but just because there was no story to it, You didn't ultimately. Even though Savio's a very underappreciated worker and Owen, I still miss Owen to this day. It's terrible what happened to him. This match was a good, well-wrestled match, but just, I don't well-wrestled. It's like Will Wheaton. So it was a well-wrestled match. It just didn't, it didn't really do anything beyond just give Owen a win, because Savio by this point really didn't mean anything. I mean, I feel bad for saying it, but he really didn't. Like, Savio, they kind of beat the powder pretty quickly. I mean, I think he stayed in the company until like 98, maybe early 99, and he was gone. But it was a well-wrestled match. It just didn't have much of a story to it. So it was hard to get invested, even as good as the in-ring action was. Then we go to 2006, Chavo versus Ray. This is when Vicky was getting involved in everything, and, Chavo was upset for Ray using the Eddie name, and Chavo had got, or Eddie's name, like, and leeching out the Guerrero name, and Chavo had cost Ray the world title, previously in the year, I think like a month before this. And Vicky got involved and accidentally caused Ray to fall off the ropes, and then Chavo hit a frog splash, but then it would be revealed that Vicky was actually, working with Chavo, pretends to be shocked. Yeah, it was a good match. Maybe their match at SummerSlam in 2007 was better, but it wasn't an opening match, so I can't put it here. But then we get to number 11. Well, actually, it's SummerSlam 2011 at number 17, because, hi, I can math really well. John Morrison, Kofi Kingston, and Ray versus Awesome Truth and Miz, and Alberto Del Rio. And this wasn't Del Rio's last appearance at SummerSlam 2011, but it was a fine opening 6-man tag match. It was well wrestled. These guys all had been intermingling with each other, and there were some good feuds going. Morrison and Miz had a pretty good feud for a while. They weren't really feuding as much anymore. I think Morrison, by the time the end of 2011 came along, I think he was gone from the company. He was at Survivor Series 2011. I don't remember him being anywhere after that, so I think his contract was up. But it was a good match. It was good hot opener with, some guys that can, bring the crowd on their feet. So it served its purpose. Number 16, we go to SummerSlam 2015, Sheamus versus Randy Orton. Orton was kind of a weird babyface here, and Sheamus was the Money in the Bank holder. Yes, that was a thing that actually happened in 2015, believe it or not. And there was a cool, finish where they had 2 brogue kicks, and Orton, fell to Sheamus. It was this was much better than their matches in 2010. Let's be perfectly honest about that. This was much, much better than that. Was it a great match? Nah, but it was a good opening match. And, hey, Sheamus won. Shocking. The Money in the Bank winner won. But then we get to number 15. The 2017 SummerSlam. Baron Corbin versus John Cena. Because it was kind of fun to see Baron Corbin be buried here. Even though I didn't necessarily care for John Cena by this point. Hey, Baron Corbin had apparently opened his mouth and done a whole lot of stupid shit and everything. So that's why he lost his Money in the Bank briefcase and a whole bunch of stuff. And that's why Baron Corbin lost. And it was kind of funny to see. Now, ultimately, I think it actually probably helped Baron because it showed he was willing to take his lumps and everything. I'm not a big Baron Corbin fan, but he was willing to take his lumps and, be buried for a while and everything. And then they let him rise back up through the ranks. So, okay, at least there was that. And they made him look like a joke here, so that was pretty funny. It wasn't a great match, do not get me wrong. I mean, Cena was almost an obvious burial where he was just like, you ain't done shit here. So, yeah, that was that. And then we go to number 14, 1995, Hakushi versus a 1-2-3 Kid. Proof that if you actually let athletes go out and be athletes, you could get a good match. And it was a match unlike stuff we had seen in WWE. A lot of high flying and shit and some good stuff. Hakushi being able to show that he could do some great work. 1-2-3 Kid showing he could do some great work. And almost kill himself on a couple moves. But this was a pretty damn good match. I should have ranked it a little bit higher, but ultimately, I have a reason why I ranked the matches higher like I did. This was good stuff, though. A very, very good high-energy opening match. Number 13, we get the Dudleys versus Ray, Kidman, and London. That's Billy Kidman, by the way, and Paul London. It was 2004. Then the Dudleys, actually, Spike was included here on this. This is when the Dudleys were working for Spike. Spike was the boss. This was during Spike's rise to the Cruiserweight Championship, and he didn't last very long as champion, thank God. But it was fine. it was fine. It was like Kidman and London would end up ultimately like splitting up after this when Kidman would be afraid to use the shooting star press, and that would ultimately kind of, piss everybody off. It would actually, lead to Kidman injuring people when he actually did legit injure Chavo Guerrero, which was a shame, and thankfully Chavo was okay. But yeah, this was before that, and this was a high energy opener. I mean, you have Ray, Kidman, and London on the same team. I mean, shut up and take my money, especially 2004 editions of these guys. But then we go to number 12, 2007, Cain versus Finlay. Maybe ranked a little bit higher than it should have been, but it was just, these two worked better together than I expected. And Finlay was still performing well into his 50s. Cain was still performing well. He was in a weird place here where he had lost to the Great Khali months before at WrestleMania 23, and it was a little odd, but it was still well wrestled. Of course, Finlay used the shillelagh and used stuff to, try to ground Cain, stuff like that. Cain eventually did come back with a choke slam for the win. I mean, honestly, it wasn't it wasn't great, but it was well done. It at least served its purpose, and at least Cain got a victory, and Finlay did not look out of place against a younger guy in Cain, which is weird to say because, it's not like Cain was a spring chicken at that point either. I mean, I think he was near 40. He's near 40. I think he actually might have been 38, but the whole point is Finlay did not look out of place there. So anyway, we go to number 11, and I almost put this at number 12 just to make it symmetrical, but we go to 2012 SummerSlam, Chris Jericho versus Dolph Ziggler. And the idea was, okay, Jericho was facing off against Ziggler, Money in the Bank winner, and Jericho would win. And then this would later lead to a match on Raw where it was Jericho's career on the line against Ziggler's Money in the Bank, and then Ziggler would win, and then Jericho joined Fozzy on tour, and then would come back at the 2013 Rumble. This was a good match, though. I thought these two had a very phenomenal short feud, but it was a very good feud, and you really can't go wrong with 2012 Chris Jericho and 2012 Dolph Ziggler. Sure, Jericho was not what he was, and by God, in 2019, he is certainly not what he was. But at this time, it worked well. These two worked well together, and you can't complain about how this went. Because ultimately, Ziggler, Ziggler won like the feud. And then they would even face off at the 2013 Rumble. So that was pretty good stuff. We then go to 1991. And this is match number 10. British Bulldog, Ricky Steamboat, and Texas Tornado versus Power and Glory, Paul Roma, Hercules, and the Warlord. Bulldog and Warlord, had had their feud seemingly culminate at WrestleMania 7, but that didn't happen. Steamboat, rare SummerSlam appearance for him. I mean, I think this is his only SummerSlam appearance. He was supposed to be on the Team WWE in 2010, but he wasn't due to a brain aneurysm. That's unfortunate. And then we got Bret Hart, and it made me sad to watch Bret Hart in the ring. But moving on. Interesting pairing here. Power and Glory, Warlord. They were all managed by Slick. It was interesting to see this. It's unfortunate that this is one of Texas Tornado's last appearances for WWE, especially in the pay-per-view. I think he appeared at the 92 Rumble. I think he appeared at Survivor Series 91, then he appeared at the 92 Rumble, and then he was gone after that, which is sad. But this was a good match. Interesting mix of baby faces, but it worked well. It was a very good opener. And then we go number 9. Go all the way back to 1992, so we go 1 year ahead of what we were just at. Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, versus Money Inc. And very hot opener. Crowd loved it. Wembley Stadium, of course, they were going to love LOD. LOD were, the cheered baby face of Money Inc. were the dastardly heels. Paul Ellering had the stupid dummy thing. Rocco, I'm not knocking Paul Ellering. I'm knocking, whoever decided having a ventriloquist dummy with them was a good idea. Fucking Vince, goddamn idiot. But, boy, the motorcycle entrance was really, really cool. LOD would win. It was a very, very good match, and LOD could always get the crowd on their feet. It's a shame this would be the last appearance on a major promotion for LOD as a team until, 96? It would be 3.5 years. Because they came back in, earlier 96 in WCW. They wouldn't even appear on WWE TV again until, 97. It's just a real shame what happened to Hawk and Animal. But what, they ultimately, made peace and all that stuff and everything, and then Hawk unfortunately passed away. But it was a good match. And then we get to 1988 for the number 8 entrant, British Bulldogs. Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith versus the Fabulous Russo Brothers. First match on the first SummerSlam, it ended a time limit draw. Some people may not like that. The match was really, really good for what it was. I had this actually had a decision. This might have been top 4. But I'm ranking it a little bit lower because of the time limit draw. It wasn't exactly the best way to like, hey, you paid all this money for the pay-per-view, and here's a time limit draw, something you might see on free TV and stuff like that. These two teams worked well together. I mean, granted, by this point, Dynamite Kid was a shell of what he was. I mean, my God, was he ever. And it's such a shame, such a shame. Let me play the smallest violin for that piece of shit. I'm sorry. Dynamite Kid may have been one of the best wrestlers, best high flyers and stuff like that, but he's a rotten human being. Not that I'm perfect, but I don't think I would never do any stuff like that Dynamite did. Moving on. Good tag match. Time limit draw brings it down a little bit, but it was still very good. We then go to number 7. We go to 2016. Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens versus Enzo and Cass. They managed to get a watchable match out of Enzo and Cass on the main roster. So right there, Jericho and Owens deserve a high spot here on this list. That's all I'm really going to say, though, because it's Enzo and Cass. What the fuck can you say about these two hacks in the ring? Granted, I want to say one little caveat, though, or one little addition. I'm glad that Cass seems to be better, that he overcame that seizure he had, last year. He seems to be healthier. He seems to understand stuff that's gone on with him, and he's addressing that stuff. So good for him. Enzo's still a goddamn joke and a goddamn idiot, but hey, at least Big Cass seems to be understanding that. That being said, though, this act had gotten stale pretty quickly. But hey, at least and Owens mocking Enzo's dance, like Enzo's movement, were just absolutely great, just fucking great. Number 6, 2009, Ray versus Dolph, IC title. Ray should have not politicked his way to retaining over Dolph. Dolph should have won here because this kind of stunted Dolph's growth a little bit when they were actually starting to push him, and it really should have gone a whole lot better. And it did. It didn't, though. Ray did win, and then we drop it to John Morrison a little bit later because Ray got suspended for violating the wellness policy. I guess he had more than surgeries in his left knee. At least I believe he got suspended for a wellness violation, but the whole point is Dolph should have won. They had an opportunity here with Dolph. I mean, granted, Dolph would get more opportunities afterwards and would, rise back up, but it just felt like it was unnecessary. Ray didn't need to win here, and the fact that he didn't do any favors for Dolph. I didn't really like that. And then we get to 2001, Edge versus Lance Storm for the IC title. It's Edge versus Lance Storm. Sure, there's goofiness and everything with the match, but these two worked well together, and Lance, I always felt, deserved a little bit better than he got in WWE. I liked it. I thought it was a fun match. It was well worked. I mean, what can you say? And Edge would win, and then, of course, you would later, not that night, but later on, you would have Edge and Christian split, and then you would ultimately go with that feud and everything. SummerSlam 2001 was weird because of the whole invasion angle thing, but it was a pretty fun SummerSlam. Funner Slam. That kind of sounds like a bad movie. But except actually if you ignore the whole thing of DDP and Cain getting destroyed by the Brothers of Destruction in a cage. It's no wonder DDP didn't like his first WWE run. Gee, I wonder why. I mean, maybe because they smashed him into the goddamn ground for no reason. But anyway, we move on to number 4. It's Mankind versus Triple H in a steel cage from SummerSlam 1997. It was spectacular. It was a spectacular match. China got involved, slamming the cage door into Mankind's head. It seemed like Mankind wasn't going to win, but then he did this big old elbow drop off the top of the cage and everything, kind of like channeling Jimmy Snuka, which that got Foley to wanting to be wanting to be in the ring, watching Jimmy Snuka dive off the cage. That was pretty damn cool. And these two, it was a much better match than they had at King of the Ring 1997. Let me say that much. This was a very, very well done match, and was perfect for like a pay-per-view, perfect for an opener. Foley would win, well, Mankind. And it was great stuff. It really was. And then we go to number 3. Go all the way back 1989. I was 8 years old. Don't tell me what you guys were, in the comments, because most of you are probably way younger than me. I'm kidding. Go ahead and tell me if you want. Brainbusters versus the Hart Foundation. Brainbusters are tag team champions at the time, but this match was signed before they became tag team champions, so the titles weren't on the line. Whatever. It was a great match, though. Heenan, of course, got involved. Brainbusters would win and ultimately, keep the tag titles, even though they weren't on the line. Who says that they wouldn't have just found a way to worm that way in? worm that in, because Arn and Tully were unfortunately leaving like soon after Survivor Series and going back to WCW. And then Arn did, and then Tully didn't, because Jim Herd's a goddamn idiot. But Jim Herd's idiocy aside, this was a great tag match. And the Brainbusters, of course they were going to, cheat to win. But this is exactly the type of action I like to see in a tag team match. Two classic teams, great teams, teams that complement each other so well. They can work well, they can put on a competitive match, a great match, and that's exactly what they did here, and I fucking loved it. And then we go to number 2. We go to 2002. We go to even the Kofi wrestling in WWE in 2002 would have been weird. Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio. Yeah, you could argue that maybe this match was ranked a little bit high, but it was high energy from the opening bell. Rey snuck out from under the ring, attacked Kurt. It was fast paced from bell to bell. Kurt would ultimately win, as he should have, because there was no reason for Rey to win. But this was a great, great match, a great opener, and it was exactly what you would ask for with a pay-per-view, especially at this time when the network wasn't around. It wouldn't be around for another 12 years. People were paying their hard-earned money for the pay-per-view, and I would say, I remember buying this one. I felt like I got my money's worth just based on this match, even as short as it was. But number 1 from last year's SummerSlam, Seth Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler for the IC title. This was great. I admit to not maybe caring as much about Dolph Ziggler being Intercontinental Champion and being Seth Rollins when it should have been Elias. But this was a well-worked match. Dean Ambrose had returned the previous Raw, so he was going to be in Seth's corner. Drew was going to be in Dolph's corner. So, yeah, Dolph and Drew still around. So, I remember Durbin and I doing that whole lot. That was pretty funny. It's also a stupid name, but it was funny. Dolph and Drew. So that aside, Rollins and Ziggler did cut a great pace here. They made up for, and the crowd made up for the fact of how the crowd was at Extreme Rules with the Iron Man match, 10, 9, 8, 7. It was funny, but it was disrespectful towards the people. But anyway, this was a great match, and Seth Rollins ultimately won, dethroning or deep-throating Dolph Ziggler, as I tend to keep saying. Instead of dethrone, I say deep-throat, because I'm a weird human being. But my weirdness aside, this match was absolutely great, and to me, the best SummerSlam opener ever. Now, people can argue with that, and please leave in the comments what you guys think. But do you agree? Do you disagree with what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I will see you soon. God damn it.